Hi guys, welcome to the latest edition of Chat Shiz Get Banged. I've just been watching the intro along with you, and I love it because it makes us both look a lot younger than we are now, me especially. But happy to be joined once again by my man Fuad Abdul-Aziz from Behind the Gloves. And there's been a big announcement today, Fuad. What do you make of it? And how were you surprised, first of all, that they announced a slew of shows in one go?
Not surprised, no, because obviously we don't really have much UK shows to look forward to up until at this point, obviously. So yeah, I kind of anticipated that Matchroom are going to come along with a handful of shows. So will Frank in sooner or later. I'm sure he's got a few lined up for the end of the year as well. But no, it's great. The Ritson returns as well. Looking forward to him against Vasquez. I think it's on that card, Savannah Marshall against Hannah Rankin. That's a good fight. It's a really good fight. And then obviously seeing Buatsi back, just even as a fan of Buatsi, just seeing him back in the ring is something positive. But yeah, the big one, obviously, you're not going to avoid it. Dillian Whyte against Povetkin announced literally weeks after he was flattened by Povetkin. Absolutely crazy that they've actually pulled it off so quick. Goes to show both Povetkin's team's willingness to give him the rematch and, not bullshit around. Or bullshiz around, I should say, on the show. Bullshiz around. And obviously Dillian Whyte's hunger to get back in and get that victory. He's already like 2 weeks after the loss, he was in Portugal training without anyone, just went over there and started on his graph.
Sparring, we have to say. Not sparring.
Not sparring. I mean, like just training, getting into training camp mode, hitting the bags, cardio, everything else, bar sparring. But yeah, am I shocked? Yes. I can't believe it's come so fast. I even thought, of course, I think Dillian can beat him this time around, but I just thought they'd take a bit more time out to reevaluate the loss properly. But, they believe that they can win it. So fair play. What was your initial reactions to it being? And I know you kind of figured that like me, it was coming, but a bit too soon?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. So we had this debate this morning on Twitter. I woke up to a bunch of notifications that weren't from one of my tweets. It's from a reply. So I can't even remember it was probably about Dex Spellman or something. Anyway, Kyle Greaves, who's Spellman's trainer and manager, responded and just talked about the discrepancy between the suspensions handed out by the Boxing Board of Control when someone loses inside the distance.
Yep.
And his bone of contention was that Dex Spellman got ruled out on a stoppage, didn't take a lot of punishment. A lot of people thought it was a soft stoppage that he could have gone on and got a 45-day suspension, the maximum of the two options. Whereas Dillian Whyte, who got a very heavy knockout or stoppage rather against Alexander Povetkin, August 22nd, was only given the 28-day suspension, the shorter of the two. And he took issue with that. I interviewed him a bit later on, a couple of hours later, and he went into more detail, just talking about he wasn't really annoyed at Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, or Dillian Whyte. It was more at the board themselves and their inconsistency in applying their own rules. And I thought that was interesting because, yeah, Dillian Whyte didn't take a great deal of punishment in the fight until the knockout. I don't buy this thing that he was in complete control and had won every round necessarily. But having seen it since, I don't think he took a lot of heavy shots. I don't think he was getting beaten up or anything like that. But the finishing shot was a big, big shot, like a once-in-a-lifetime type shot.
He was out. Povetkin. His legs were gone.
How quickly do you recover from that neurologically? I'm not an expert. And also emotionally, and I put this to Frank Smith when I interviewed him recently, it's not so much the physical recovery because we've seen Dillian Whyte come back from harder fights, but it's the mental side of things, getting knocked out, not able to rise to your feet on a big show, Sky Sports box office. Dillian Whyte's got a very, very strong character mentality, we know that, but it would be hard for anyone to come back from that. And it's such a quick turnaround. Frank Smith compared it to Anthony Joshua coming back after getting destroyed by Andy Ruiz and going into that immediate rematch. And I kind of think that's a good analogy. However, Joshua had a lot more time. I think there was 5 or 6 months between the fights.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is 3, I think someone said on Twitter, 91 days.
Yeah.
Like Frank Smith said, and I agree with him to an extent, that no one knows better how ready he is than Dillian Whyte. I kind of think the fighter's not the one who knows best in situations like this. I think it's the people around him.
Yeah.
And if they feel confident enough that he's ready, and bear in mind the trainer he's working with, although he's only been the head trainer for one fight, he has worked with Dillian for a number of years. They know him pretty well. His management team's been around him for a long time. If they feel that he's ready and they know him better than anyone, then fair enough, I guess.
Yeah. Going back to like the Dex Spellman thing, Deck got stopped in the 6th, right? Was it?
Yeah, the 6th.
And
Right near the end of the 6th, actually. 18 seconds to go in the round.
And Whyte got stopped 4th or 5th.
Fifth. Fourth was the one where he knocked him down twice, wasn't it? And then he lost in the 5th.
So,
or the other way. Or it might have been 3rd and 4th.
So do the board have a rule where if you go past a certain amount of rounds, you might get suspended for more because you've maybe taken a battering? I don't know. Is there a rule like that?
It's not specific. That's the thing. I asked Carl Greaves about this because obviously he has the handbook with all the rules in it. Mine vanished years ago, but there's no rule except for if it's particularly heavy, then you get the 45 days. If it's a bad cut, because cuts take so long to heal, then it's the 45 days. But it's not very specific in terms of the criteria, which it adds to people's frustrations, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be that during that period, you can't take any shots to the head. So you can't spar, for example. So if Dillian Whyte had got the 45-day suspension, starting sparring in time to have this rematch on November 21st would have been very, very difficult.
Yeah, I think you have to kind of be brutally honest also about the fact, and I'm not saying they are doing this, but boxing's the biggest business sport there is. There's a lot of rules that are amended, or there's a lot of rules that aren't clear enough because it's such a business. So there's always loopholes. We've seen so many loopholes, right? And I think this is another one in a certain way. But, you know, we're in a time where boxing is not making a great deal of money, and bringing Dillian Whyte, if he wants to, bringing Dillian Whyte back, if he wants to come back so early, makes more money for everyone. Unfortunately, I hate saying it. It makes me feel kind of horrible to say, but that's what boxing is, right? And are they reducing the suspension because they think, you know, they might have a chat with Dillian and he's fine with it, and they're like, all right, well, everyone makes more money that way if Dillian comes back sooner rather than wait longer, and then Povetkin might go on a different road. So while they've got everyone on the books, hey, let's not miss out on another payday. Let's get it done. So that's my point of like from a business side. But you're right, didn't seem knowing best. But it's a very, very big risk, man. Because if he does lose this fight, where does he go next? Like, it's just sad. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, you wait so long for your title shot or your big opportunity, whatever you want to call it. And credit to him, and everyone's giving him credit for this, for fighting top-level opposition during that period. But it's always going to be a risk. You know, you keep fighting these top 10 heavyweights. Eventually, you know, especially if, and I'm not saying this happened, but if your motivation starts to wane because you're not getting that title shot that you've been chasing for so long, you're going to have an off night. Whether it's motivation, whether it's physically, whether you had a hard camp, whatever it might be, every fighter has off nights.
Yeah.
And if you have an off night, but you're always fighting top-level opposition, you can't afford it. No. You know, it's all right to have an off night when you're fighting someone substandard. You might still get through it.
Yeah.
But when you're regularly fighting top 10 heavyweights, you can't afford an off night, especially when one punch, as we saw with Povetkin, can change everything. Like, it's an overused cliche, but that's because it's true.
Yeah, it is really strange when you do deep it and you think about it. Like even the Joshua Ruiz one, when after he lost, we were like, well, he lost in June. We're like, all right, is it going to happen straight away? They were like, it's going to happen, and it did. It really happened straight away. And for boxing fans and people who work in boxing like us, we were like, you know, taken back at the fact that, all right, fair enough, we're getting back. That is what you call quick. But this, what do you call this? I don't think this is quick. This might be, you know, it might not be sensible.
Rapid. Let's call it rapid.
Rubby dingy rapids.
Yeah, exactly that. Rapid. Let's hope he swims rather than sinks.
Hopefully.
But I think it's a massive pay-per-view event. I think you alluded to the fact about the business side of it and how important it is. I obviously got a lot of stick for saying that I didn't think the first card was pay-per-view worthy, at least not at the full price of $19.95.
Yeah.
I won't say that about the rematch because I think it's been made a huge event by the result of the first fight. It was a shocking result. Everyone wants to see if Dillian Whyte can come back and regain his standing. Want to see if Povetkin can roll back the clock again, as he did in the first fight. And, you know, it almost regardless of the undercard, it's now a one-fight show. It's now big enough as an attraction for the undercard to be less important, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I did disagree with you to some extent about about the first one being a pay-per-view because I thought it was a good fight, and also you have to take in the whole climate, well, like we did. But yeah, this fight now, I understand your point. It's definitely a standalone pay-per-view fight because it's such a huge fight, and I'm excited to see who's going to be on the card. I don't really have a clue who's going to be on there. I hope it's a good one. Have you got any idea?
Well, I expected to see some of the main kind of Dillian Whyte team on there, but then I've seen that John Harding Jr. and Alan Babbage are both on the Buatsi show.
Yeah.
So, with that being the case, maybe Fabio Wardley, I guess, would be likely to be on there. I think Lawrence Okoli, they're earmarking for the AJ show in December, so he won't be.
Yeah.
Buatsi, as we've seen, is headlining his own show. Josh Kelly Avanesian, that would be great if they could resurrect that for that show. I should have asked Cole Greaves about that today. You just made me think. There's one thing I didn't mention. I actually said to Shane, who was in the bubble last week, why don't you ask Cole Greaves about Kelly Avanesian? And now I've forgotten to do it as well.
So that would be good to have that fight on that card for sure. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Who else would you have on that card for a pay-per-view?
Conor Benn.
Yeah,
against Chris Jenkins, if they can make that.
Ben would be, I think those type of fighters would be on that card. I can imagine that happening. With a lot of the other fighters already on their own cards, Ritson, Buatsi. Question is, where is it happening?
Yeah, well, that is a big question. Will fans be allowed in to any extent in time for November? With the stats tracking the way they are, it's not looking great at the moment, but we shall see. I got an email from my son's school today to say the first kids tested positive for COVID, not in his bubble, so he's still going to be going to school, but somewhere in the school. And then they closed down their specific bubble, which is like 30 kids for 2 weeks. Yeah. And it's like, it's only started, like term only started last week, and they've already found the first one. It's just a recipe for disaster. And I say that to kind of emphasize how the whole COVID thing is not over. It might be that less people are dying from it, sure, but the infection rate is still very high. And we're coming up to winter and weather's going to change and it's going to be harder. So we'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, they've just changed the restrictions, obviously, from 6 people gathering to 30, from 30 to 6. So the other way around, it's gone right down. And if that trend continues, it's hard to see live sporting events going ahead this year.
Yeah, I have so much to say about what you just said, but I'm not going to turn a boxing show into a political show. That's something I'm not going to do. But there are certain ways I feel.
I'm just saying, as it applies.
Yeah, I know. But you just reminded me about certain things, and I already so many points have already come up in my head. Like, say this, say. I'm like, no, it's not a political show. It's a boxing show. I
got told on YouTube comments yesterday that I look like Keir Starmer, so that's them making it political.
Who's Keir Starmer?
Oh dear. He's the leader of the Labour Party.
Oh, my bad. So everyone's going to come at me now.
He's incredibly good looking as well.
Oh, fair enough.
I should point that out.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, so we're saying Buatsi's not going to be on the Dillian Whyte show because he's headlining his own show. October the 4th. It's been pushed back a week. Against Mario Kalic, I believe.
Sunday night.
Do you know anything about Mario Kalic? What can you tell us?
Not a clue.
I heard you're a Croatian boxing expert.
Yeah. He's 12-0. I sparred him. He's got a good left hook. He's got a good. I'm joking. I have no idea who this guy is. I literally saw the name and I was like, all right, cool. But like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm not bothered. I'm glad to see Buatsi out and get that rust off because he's been out the ring since he last fought on the Lomachenko card. Or the Josh Taylor card. I can't remember one of the two. So it's been so long since he last fought. I'm just glad to see him get some action in the ring and see what he's worked on, really. That's all you can sort of be happy for. Of course, we want to see the big fights, but we ain't going to get no big fights anytime soon, apart from Povetkin Whyte. It's just good to see him in the ring. Do you know anything about this geezer? Tell me, Danny.
Only what I Googled earlier. I mean, yeah, he was long-time amateur. He was in the APB, which is like the short-lived pro-am kind of mix that Aiba did. And he did all right in that, I think. I don't know much about him. He's 32 years old. He's unbeaten. He's travelled around a lot for fights and stayed unbeaten, which says something about his character, I guess. Yeah. He'll be coming with his own ambitions, so it's always good when someone comes to win. I guess it will be compared to Yard Am I boring you, mate? Am I boring you?
No, sorry, I've had a long day. I yawn really
I have
badly,
this
like I'm out
effect,
the
but
fan.
usually on women. Um, yeah, people are going to compare it to Anthony Yard against Dex Bellman, of course, because it's most recent, and Yard and Buatsi are big rivals.
Yeah.
So you've got someone going up against a proven commodity, all being one who's been found out to an extent at domestic level. And then you've got someone who no one knows much about because he's not fought over here, but he is unbeaten. His level hasn't been shown yet as a pro. So there's pluses and minuses, but yeah, it is good to see Buatsi back out. You don't want him withering on the vine. Do you know what I mean? He's one of our most exciting contenders / prospects.
Yeah,
We
probably
want to
our
see him in
best
action.
prospect.
John
Probably
Harding Jr. against Linus Adofia is a good undercard fight. I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And who else did we say? Oh, the Savage, Alan Babbage
yes.
is back. I think most people will be looking forward to that. Don't blink.
I want to
in
see
his
how
fight.
I want to see how Savannah Marshall deals with Hannah Rankin, because this is a good fight.
That's a very good fight. It's
Savannah's
her biggest challenge as a pro so far.
Savannah's, it's hard to find, I guess, fights in certain times and certain weight classes with the women's divisions, but this one's a very good fight. Hannah's experience, she's won titles, she's fought Clarissa. She knows how to fight, and she comes to fight. And that's going to really show whether Savannah's what Savannah's made out of in this program, because we've not really seen it. We've seen her knock people out for fun, but with all due respect, those fighters that she fought weren't up to standard of herself. So it's going to be interesting.
What I find interesting as well is that initially, when this show was first scheduled, Savannah Marshall was going to be fighting for a world title at light heavyweight, and she's now going to be fighting for a world title at middleweight.
Middleweight, yeah.
2 divisions left.
So she's cut. No, I just agreed with you. It is a bit strange.
Yeah, well, I think she was never really a light heavyweight. It was just the opportunity against Giovanna Perez came up at light heavy, and she thought that'll be my first world title. She was more a super middle, but now dropping down to middle, which is obviously where, if the fight ever happens, she will meet Clarissa Shields.
Yes.
Former amateur victim, and Shields hates us talking about that, but, it's a fact, and the judges made that decision.
Super fight.
Yeah, a super fight. And in the most recent interview with Savannah Marshall that I did, she actually showed a lot more personality than before, a lot more urgency in the stuff she was talking about. And she basically criticised Eddie Hearn a little bit by saying, he's talked a lot about Joshua against Fury, a fight that's a long way off, but hardly ever mentioned me against Clarissa, not me against Clarissa Shields, I'd get destroyed, but Savannah Marshall against Clarissa Shields. And, that's a fight that can actually happen this year, and it's not being given enough attention. And I thought it was a good point. It was a little kick up the backside, perhaps, and then Eddie Hearn's come back with a world title shot down at middleweight, which, who holds the other 3 titles at middleweight, unless she's vacated one of the others and I don't know about it? Clarissa Shields.
Yes.
So
that is very
what
true.
that means is you can make an undisputed fight, which would have been anyway if Clarissa had kept hold of all 4 belts between her and Marshall. But it means more, I think, if Marshall comes in with a belt of her own and they're reunifying the division against her former amateur conqueror. It's a real easy sell, I think.
Oh, it's 100% an easy sell. And I like the fact that Savannah's finally spoke up about it, because every time you interview Savannah, she's sweet. She's sweet as well. Like she keeps it real, talks about a fight, respectful, and moves on. And every time you talk about Clarissa, she laughs about it and she talks about it in, how you expect it to, respectfully. But I'm glad she's finally said something, because even like just as a fan, I'm like, why is no one talking about the fight? It's true. People talk about it, but it goes under the radar very quickly. And to think about the magnitude of the fight, not just their own rivalry, America against the UK, it's like it's just got that feel again, So it's one of those fights.
Yeah, I mean, I'd quite like to see it on the Joshua show in December, but when I spoke to Frank Smith, he felt that might be too quick a turnaround.
I think it's a standalone, though. I think that's what you want to make a woman's main event. Like that can be a woman's main event with a very good card. And we're talking about like promoting women in sport and women in boxing, and boxing's done a fantastic job, one of the best jobs in women's sport to uplift them and give them a platform and really, create something out of the women's division. That would be an amazing opportunity to take and say, all right, we've got a Brit and we've got an American, and they've got this rivalry, and we're talking about all the belts, and they can fight. They can really fight. Watch this. It'd be amazing to have that as a main event.
Why not have an all-female show? Savannah Marshall, Clarissa Shields, Jonas Harper rematch, Katie Taylor, Chantel Cameron, all on pay-per-view.
Triple header. Yeah, I mean, again, that you know what? and again, this is going not to say, not to be disrespectful to the fact that, you know, women's boxing is still on the rise. If that was a men's card where you talk about three fights of that magnitude, it'd be kind of unrealistic because you think about the money you can make elsewhere. But of course, those fights alone can make money elsewhere. But on one card, you're right, it would be insane to have that on one card. We also have the other rematch between Cecilia Breakhouse and McCaskill announced as well. So that, I mean, they could add that in as well. That'd be insane.
Now, I've got to say, someone said on our live chat, Inside the Ropes, he says, 19 people on the chat, only 6 thumbs up. Show some support, guys. Seconds Out deserve that at least.
What about behind the
gloves?
gloves?
Makes me feel a bit like a charity case, but I appreciate it. Inside the Ropes, it means a lot. But we did only announce that we were doing this about 45 minutes before we went live. Normally, there's a lot more lead time on these chat shiz shows, which is really hard to say. And we normally get a lot more than this people watching live, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to catch up with it later on the pre-record. So we're not too worried just yet. Someone else on the live chat, oh no, it's Inside the Ropes again, says, I don't think Fury Wilder 3 happens this year, to be honest. What do you think?
Fury Wilder 3. So when they're meant to be announcing something about Fury's, I mean, his coach has come over to the UK. He's training.
Stewart,
tucked
up in Morecambe.
Yeah, I mean, I just loved watching Tyson's Fury though. Tyson's story the other day, I think yesterday, of them just running down the beach, and you can see Sugar Hill like enjoying the views. That was class. I love the man. He's a good guy. But yeah, it signs that Tyson's getting back into contention for a fight again. I don't know. It sounds like he did. Frank did say that. Remember, he said it to both of us. I think that December he's definitely fighting, whether it is Wilder or not. So it's gonna be interesting. I don't think the Wilder one will happen this year. No, I don't see that happening. It's too big of a fight. Even though they're saying, oh yeah, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, December, limited crowds. I highly, it's highly unlikely. You have to remember as well, when Fury fights in Vegas, a lot of the crowd are Brits. Will Brits be allowed in America anytime soon? We don't know. So they're not going to take that type of risk.
Well, if we're not, Fury won't either, will he?
Well, no, but they can take him off like a work visa or something, can't they?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how it's going to work.
Vidal Riley's been in and out of the States.
Do you have to quarantine if you go over there as a boxer for 2 weeks or whatever, like people do when they come here from certain places?
Possibly. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the rules on that. But I'm sure that if you've got a reasonable reason in terms of like, I don't know, there's something behind it, but I can't remember. Because I was trying to figure out how Vidal's been going in and out. He's obviously, he trains in Vegas, doesn't he? But he was in the UK a bit ago. So I don't know.
Well, apparently the Allegiant Stadium's been kind of pre-booked for that December the 19th date. And, they're going to hope to fill it 20% or something like that. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. Would Fury go to the trouble of bringing Sugar Hill Stewart over if he was doing a keep busy fight? I don't know.
Why not? Why not? I don't see why he wouldn't. Fury does all sorts of things. I don't see why he wouldn't. He is his main coach, so I mean, it's not really. I don't really look into that. Someone said, Super K. He says supposed to be announced in 10 days for 19th of December. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But who else is he gonna fight if he doesn't fight Wilder? Who can you pick out a name where it's like, is it gonna be another Schwartz or something like that?
Charles Martin's looking for a fight.
Charles Martin is looking for a fight. Yes, that could well happen. And he could sell it.
He'd have to finish him earlier than Joshua, though, to make it really make a statement. And that's not going to be so easy, is it? So,
well, yeah, I don't know. I can't figure out. It's another one you just kind of have to keep hovering on, whether it's going to happen in December or not. I'm just thinking about the AJ fight, if that's going to be happening in December because of the new rules and stuff. I can't really. I don't know, especially with the 6 people thing.
Yeah, I think they said that there's going to be exemptions for certain sporting events, but we don't know what things are going to be like in December. It's the height of winter, isn't it? Cases could be through the roof. I don't want to, wish ill on it, but who knows? One thing we haven't talked about, and we mentioned the Matchroom announcement, Sky Sports announcement, is that the World Boxing Super Series final, the Cruiserweight final, is now going to be on Sky Sports a week on Saturday. Maris Bridis against Uniel Dorticos. And we've got an easy way of seeing it in the UK. Well, easy if you've got Sky, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, it kicks off the whole October through to November season of boxing that we've been announced of today, and it's a good fight. It's going to be interesting to see both of them. I'm sure, regardless of just getting to the final, waiting so long to actually fight in the final is going to be getting to them, and I'm sure. I mean, I'm excited. It's going to be a good fight either way, and thankfully it's on Sky. Exciting times.
I've got a question, another one from Inside the Ropes. He's dominated this show more than we have, but he's got a question for me personally. He says, Danny, you are my idol. No, I'm joking. He doesn't really say that. He says, I've got a question for Danny. What age did you get into boxing and how did your first opportunity come about as a boxing journalist? Well, I think we should both answer this, not both answer it about me, both answer our own individual stories. So basically, I first got into boxing. Well, I first got into boxing as a fan when I was like 10 or 11, but first got into the business side of it. I'm trying to think I'm not sure how old I was, but it was 2006. 2006. I was working as an editorial assistant for a medical publisher, the British Medical Association, actually, who produced loads of medical journals. Didn't really find it particularly exciting. Was a massive boxing fan, but it's my first job out of uni, and yeah, was doing that. And then I was reading boxing news weekly basis as I had since I was very young, and I'd said to one of my colleagues at the British Medical Association, I'd really like to get into writing about this stuff. I think I could do as well as some of the people that write in the magazine, but I don't know how to do it. And she said, why don't you just write to them with some samples of what you'd write about and see what they say?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I've never really thought of that, which was crazy. But started doing that, got published a bit as a freelancer. And then when they advertised for an editorial assistant the following year, myself and Tris Dixon, who I'm sure a lot of people out there will know of, got down to the final two for that job. He got it. And then 3 months later, someone else left and they hired me rather than kind of going through the whole interview process again.
Okay.
They hired the runner-up, I guess, and then just progressed through from there. But that's how I got my first kind of start in the business. What about you, mate?
That's really interesting. I didn't know that about you. That's a nice little story for me. But yeah, I am 22 years old, and I have been into. See, I've been in and out. Like I was never a big fan growing up of boxing. I'm always, as you can see, massive football fan, massive Chelsea fan. I got I watched bits and bobs. I watched like the big fights, Mayweather, Pacquiao, and then once Joshua's Rise started coming up, I started getting into it more. Started following it a lot more. Believe it or not, you could call me a plastic boxing fan because I've not been around it for so long, but I got the break pretty quickly of being a boxing fan and then wanting to do I've always wanted to do YouTube. That's kind of been my sort of goal, to have a YouTube brand, to build a YouTube brand. And Michelle's brand and Michelle's channel, Behind the Gloves, was taking off. I was following it for a while. And yeah, I think I just go into these events, meeting people, and then I remember just talking to Michelle. They were looking for someone. I worked as an intern for a little bit, found my feet in terms of how the boxing world works in terms of events, press conferences, blah 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 blah. But yeah, it was pretty quick for me, and the knowledge I gained through just getting into it so fast has been quite useful because it's led me to where I am now. And yeah, just I'm right here. My journey's still on the road.
Yeah, so's mine. So's mine. Just because you're young.
No, I'm not. I'm saying you're a lot more experienced than me.
I'm joking.
I'm just saying mine's still. I feel like if anyone's opinion in boxing should be respected out of us two, it's definitely yours. That's what I'm saying.
I actually got a few people, a few boxers I interviewed this week. It's all come at once. It's very strange, but I think they might have some sort of secret bet. But I've had a few at the end of interviews kind of giving me praise. But all this week, it's never really happened before, and then 3 in 1 week. So I think maybe there's some sort of pranking going on that I don't know about. I'm being punked.
I gotta give you your respect, Danny. You're good at what you do. We were talking about it the other day, but we didn't come and tell you because I didn't want you to get big-headed and blow your head off.
Who's we? Who was in this conversation?
Me and Nagyov from Pro Boxing Fans. Yeah, we were you just asked me, he goes, who do you think's the best? I was like, there's loads of people. I think Michelle's great at what she does. Coogan's good as well. They're really trendsetters. And then we were thinking, who else is there? And then I just literally turned around. I was like, hold on a minute. Danny smashes it week in, week out. And I guess because you're like on Seconds Out, Raheem is like pretty much the face of it. People sometimes not forget, but like they don't see you on camera a lot. But I think your interviews never go down as like underrated. They're rated all the time. So kudos to you for what you do. You're smashing it, and keep inspiring, man, with your work.
Oh, thanks, mate. And you're great too. I wouldn't have anyone else on this show with me, partly because we'd have to change the name strap, but you know. But yeah, Raheem's excellent. I've got to say, like Raheem's a bit of an inspiration because I come from a print journalism background and websites as well. And then I've transitioned into the video journalism world quite late on in my career.
Yeah.
And Raheem is a big inspiration because he might not be the best at the technical stuff. Do you know what I mean? Which I'm not great at either. But in terms of being an on-screen personality, establishing a rapport with the boxers, asking the right questions, there's no one better in my view. And I'm not just saying that because he works for Seconds Out, although he's disappeared for months and left it all to me. But fair play, I'm sure he's doing more important work than video journalism at the moment. There's a lot going on out in the US. But yeah, excellent at what he does. And I've admired him from afar before I worked for Seconds Out. So fair play to him. And getting back away from us, because we're obviously not the story. Someone asked, I'm trying to find it. Yeah, Team Batman Boxing wants to know who we pick as the winners in the 2 Charlo fights coming up. So Charlo against Rosario and Jamal Charlo against Derevianchenko.
So hard. These fights are going to be good, man. I really don't know. I think the Derevianchenko one's even tighter. I feel like he could snatch it, you know. I feel like he could. Rosario's no joke though. Obviously he had that good victory, but is he still seasoned enough to handle Charlo? Don't know. We'll have to find out. What about you?
Derevianchenko's like the nearly man, isn't he? Like nearly beat Triple G, nearly beat Danny Jacobs. He needs that career best performance to finally come out on top. A lot of people think he will have too much for Charlo. So step up for Charlo as well. You know, at middleweight, genuine middleweight, not a, you know, you've come up obviously from super welter. Derevianchenko's a genuine middleweight opponent. Got his creds in the fights he's had at top level. It's a pick and fight. It's a 50-50. The other fight, I've got a sneaking suspicion Rosario might get the job done. He impressed me greatly when he won the unified belts in his previous fight. Jamel has been beaten before, obviously avenged that defeat. So it's an interesting one. But yeah, I think same as you. I think the Derevianchenko one is harder to call.
Yeah, exactly. We're on the same boat. Rosario could really be, you know, it could be more of his coming out party because the first one, like obviously he beat the champ and it's like, whoa, he did it, crazy. But then it's like an Andy Ruiz situation. Is he the next thing or does he get beat? And we're going to find out. This could be his coming out party. Interesting fights, both of them, class fights, and fair play to everyone who's taken that, you know, the 4 of them for taking each of those fights.
And I'm just looking on the chat. Where is Radio? Heard Wilder looking for him. Lol. Just to answer that to Bomb Squad ends December 19th finally. Oh, Jesus. That's a long handle you got there. Radio is currently working on other projects. He's still very much a member of the Seconds Out family. But there's a lot going on, particularly in the US at the moment, in terms of civil rights and the ongoing battle for equality. And as well as business projects, Radio is very much involved in that struggle as well. And we wish him the very best with that, and we're glad to have someone of such great character representing us as well. Inside the Ropes says, oh no, he's talking to someone else on the chat, I think. Just saying he hopes they're well, which is very nice, but nothing that we can use. I think we're just about wrapped up here, but it'd be great to see some of the comments below, which we will both be reading. What do you think of Matchroom's announcement, Sky Sports' announcement of the big 4 shows to come? Do you think Fury Wilder 3 will happen this year? Which is the question that was asked to us. And what about our idea for an all-female Bonanza pay-per-view? What do you make of that? If Eddie Hearn does it, you know he heard it here first.
For sure. He did.
We'll be back. We'll be back next week. We'll try and give you guys a bit more notice next time. But when the news broke, we just had to jump all over it. But fingers crossed. Next week we'll be back in our full glory. Really appreciate your time. Fuad, got some closing comments for us?
Just thank you for tuning in to the 36 to 40 people that did tune in on the Behind the Glove stream and the 19 people, did you say?
It's like 6 thumbs up apparently at the time. Someone
Well,
said.
the 6 thumbs up. You guys are legends as well. I can't believe we keep the show running every week, and it's good. So whoever's missing out, it's their loss, not ours. Even though it kind of is ours on the view side, but whatever. We move. Yeah, it's been another great show. Make sure to subscribe to both channels, and we will catch you guys next Tuesday.
Great stuff. All right, we'll see you all soon. Take care.